Hello everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of Analyzing Evil. Today, we're stepping into the polished, blood-stained world of Patrick Bateman, the unforgettable figure at the heart of American Psycho. Few characters unsettle us the way Bateman does, precisely because his horror feels so alarmingly possible. He's the kind of monster who could be sitting beside you on the subway, smiling pleasantly, wearing a flawless suit. A wolf, impeccably dressed as a lamb. Throughout the film, we witness a parade of brutal acts that frame Patrick as a deranged killer, yet the truth of his character remains strangely elusive. American Psycho thrives on ambiguity, offering glimpses that raise far more questions than they answer. And in our search to understand who, or what, Patrick Bateman really is, we're going to sift through these uncertainties and bring some light to the shadows surrounding him. Like many great films, American Psycho carries its own deeper messages, and while I may touch lightly on those themes, our focus here is Patrick himself, not the symbol he's meant to represent, but the character as he exists within the story. Before we begin, a quick note. Many of you have asked that I include the actual audio from the scenes I reference. I'd love to, but even getting the visual clips past YouTube's system is a challenge. I've experimented before with mixed results, so for the sake of this channel's long-term survival, I'll stick to the current format. With that said, let's dive in. On the surface, Patrick appears perfectly ordinary. Well, ordinary for Manhattan in the late 80s, at least. He's wealthy, handsome, sharply dressed, the quintessential yuppie. His speech is affected, his manner polished, but for someone of his social circle, none of that is unusual. He's in great physical shape, obsessed with skincare and regimented routines. Educated, connected, socially adept, he checks every box of the model young professional. It's implied he was born into this life. As Evelyn casually mentions, Patrick's father practically owns the firm where he works. But even with his picture-perfect exterior, something about him feels wrong. There are subtle moments, strange gestures, stiff movements, a peculiar cadence in his conversations, that give the sense he's performing rather than living. And that illusion cracks wide open during his iconic opening monologue. Here, Patrick confesses outright that the man he shows the world is a fabrication, a meticulously sculpted mask meant to mimic a functioning human being. As he puts it, there is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction. But there is no real me. Only an entity. Something illusory. You can shake his hand and feel warm flesh. You can compare lifestyles and laugh at the same jokes. But behind the suit and smile, he simply is not there. This is our first true glimpse at the psyche of a classic psychopath. While not every psychopath displays the same traits, Patrick ticks several defining boxes: profound lack of empathy, chronic irresponsibility, no remorse, a swollen ego, and a habitual reliance on lies. These traits weave through the film like threads pulling his mask loose. To Patrick, he's an empty shell, an outline of a man with nothing at the center. His admission that he wants to fit in, even at a job he hates, hints at a lifelong void, a struggle not just to belong, but to be someone at all. His identity isn't discovered, it's engineered. Later in the film, we're given another glimpse into Patrick's psyche, another inner monologue that widens the abyss inside him. He says, "I have all the characteristics of a human being. Blood, flesh, skin, hair, but not a single clear, identifiable emotion except for greed and disgust. Something horrible is happening inside of me, and I don't know why. My nightly bloodlust has spilled into my days. I feel lethal, on the verge of frenzy. I think my mask of sanity is about to slip." These three moments, the opening monologue, the confession about emptiness, and this spiraling admission, are the clearest windows into who Patrick is, or, more accurately, who he isn't. Patrick isn't like you or me. He's an emotional void, a hollow vessel pretending to be human. Yet even emptiness contains something. Beneath that flawless shell lies a creature crouched under the skin, waiting for the right moment to emerge, whenever greed gnaws too sharply or the hunger for blood becomes impossible to restrain. In many ways, Patrick is split in two. There's the constructed Patrick, polished, articulate, socially acceptable. And then there's the primal Patrick, raw, ravenous, driven only by greed, disgust, envy, and craving. The husk wears the suits and rehearsed smiles. The creature beneath is the one who kills. His contempt for human life, his obsession with outperforming everyone around him, and his insatiable appetite for sex and violence. These form the core of his emotional landscape. His murders come from different impulses: disgust, as in his brutal attack on the homeless man in the alley, pure bloodlust, in the deaths of sex workers, or seething jealousy, as in the case of Paul Allen. Patrick is hypersensitive in all the wrong ways. He's nearly in tears at the thought of not getting a prime restaurant reservation. He spirals into a nervous breakdown because Paul Allen's business card is nicer than his. These are disproportionate reactions to meaningless situations, symptoms of someone whose inner world is constantly cracking. Whenever he's alone, the background noise of his life tells the story for him. Pornography, violent films, and in one telling moment, he works out to the sounds of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Side note: this is almost certainly an intentional nod, given Patrick's earlier mention of Ed Gein, whose crimes helped inspire Leatherface. Yet amid all this horror, Patrick does seem to display one strangely authentic trait: his love for music. It's possible he uses music as yet another prop to seem cultured, but the depth and enthusiasm with which he speaks about it feels sincere. His socially aware comments, chastising McDermott's anti-Semitic remarks, or delivering his oddly earnest monologue at the spa about global issues, could easily be more masks. But the way he connects those ideas to music suggests something else: a buried fragment of a man who once cared. But of course, this is all the Patrick we see. The Patrick the film allows us to observe. If we judge him by what unfolds on screen, it's effortless to conclude he's a monster. Yet now we reach the great question at the center of American Psycho. Did Patrick Bateman actually commit any of the crimes we witness? Or is he a man suffering from violent delusions, perhaps even schizophrenia, lost between fantasy and reality? The film deliberately leaves this unanswered. And while I believe the ambiguity is essential, I still want to explore the possibilities based on the evidence we're given. Ultimately, there are two major delusions that could define our entire understanding of Patrick Bateman, and completely reshape whether he is a cold-blooded killer or a severely fractured mind. The first major question we need to confront is this: why does no one react to the horrific things Patrick says right to their faces? And the second is even bigger: did Patrick actually kill anyone at all? As for the first, I don't believe this is delusion. Not entirely. The world Patrick inhabits is full of people so self-absorbed, so wrapped up in their own reflections, that they constantly mistake one person for another. They don't listen. They don't care. They barely perceive the world around them unless it benefits them in some way. So when Patrick casually talks about murders and executions, instead of mergers and acquisitions, it isn't that they misunderstand him, it's that they're not paying attention. They're sealed inside their own bubbles. And this directly affects the second question. If no one listens, if no one observes, then theoretically Patrick could get away with murder, to an extent. And here, I find myself split right down the middle. I believe many of the killings we see, especially the big, theatrical ones, are delusions. There's simply no way he ran naked through an apartment hallway brandishing a chainsaw without any consequences. Another nod to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course. And the police shootout he imagines? Nearly impossible. But the quieter, more intimate acts of violence? The bloody sheets. The murder of Paul Allen. The homeless man in the alley. Those feel disturbingly real. Patrick's remark about his mask of sanity slipping could be interpreted as a warning that he's about to launch into a killing spree. But when we consider the delusions piling up, there's another explanation. His grip on reality is weakening. Delusion and truth are merging into a single, unstable nightmare, and he can no longer trust his own mind. So yes, Patrick is undoubtedly mentally ill, and by the end of the film he's drowning in hallucinations. But I still believe some of the violence he commits is genuine. When it comes to remorse, there's only one moment in the entire movie where Patrick seems to feel it: the voicemail he leaves for his lawyer. His voice shakes, he can barely form sentences, and for a fleeting second we think we're hearing confession from a man crushed by guilt. But then he admits he's afraid he won't get away with it this time. Suddenly everything snaps into place. He isn't feeling remorse, he's feeling fear. Fear of consequences. Even when he mutters that he must be a pretty sick guy, it rings hollow, like something he thinks he's supposed to say rather than something he truly believes. So what does all of this make Patrick Bateman? If I had to give him a moral label, I'd call him partially evil, a man whose conscious acts of violence, if the murders of Paul Allen, the unknown woman, and the homeless man are real, are unquestionably deliberate and malicious. That is evil in its purest form. But the delusions? The hallucinations, no matter how disturbing, come from illness, not moral corruption. A schizophrenic mind can conjure horrors that feel real, but thoughts, even terrible ones, do not define a person's moral essence. Every human being has entertained a dark thought at least once. What separates the monstrous from the ordinary is the moment thought becomes action. Patrick lives in the space between the two, where fantasy bleeds into reality, where a fractured mind and a wicked heart collide. But thoughts alone don't make someone evil. It's the choices born from those thoughts, the actions that cross the threshold from imagination into reality, that define a person's darkness. And in the end, Patrick Bateman is exactly that, a deeply fractured psychopath, a man whose hollow sense of self drives him to desperately mimic a society already hollowed out by greed, vanity, and relentless consumption. His identity is a void, and in that void festers an overwhelming urge to kill. Whatever faint ember of humanity he might possess is buried beneath layers of emotional detachment, and a psyche splintered beyond recognition. Maybe, just maybe, in another environment, another life, Patrick could have contained those impulses, managed to keep his darkest urges locked away. But the Patrick we're shown is something else entirely. He's malevolent, volatile, and terrifyingly unpredictable, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous monsters are the ones who look perfectly ordinary. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I hope you found it enlightening, unsettling, or at the very least thought-provoking. What do you make of Patrick Bateman? Share your thoughts down below, and feel free to suggest another villain you'd like to see covered in a future installment of the series. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more deep dives like this, be sure to subscribe so new episodes find their way into your feed. For occasional updates about the channel, you can follow me on Twitter @theVLI, or simply click the link in the description. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.